I offer my most loving pranams at Swami's lotus feet. I pray to Swami that he gives us all the understanding that it is Swami who speaks and it is Swami who listens to all of us. Salam everybody, good morning. A very warm welcome. So how many first timers here? That's nice. Even if it's not a first time, it's always a pleasure to be in Prashanti, and I'm sure you must have been told this before and you're going to be told this till you get bored of it, that you're so fortunate to be here. And how many ever times it is told, it's never an overstatement. As one of my seniors in college put it very beautifully, just walk around the ashram, you'll find so many trees. Right? These trees have been around for 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years. In fact, you'll be going to Vrindavan, and there, if you see in the quadrangle of the hostel, there are 4 pine trees. And one day Swami came out of Thrai Vrindavan and he looked beyond the Thrai compound and he said, "Hey, where did those trees come from?" And some of the senior teachers told Swami, "Those are the trees that you had planted when the hostel was being built." And just like a mother would feel so happy, Swami was so thrilled, "Oh, those trees, they've grown so tall that I can see them from here." So the senior had told us, all of these trees around, if I were to strangle out the poetic beauty out of the analogy, we all know that we exhale the carbon dioxide and the tree inhales it, and the tree exhales the oxygen and we inhale it. The thought it is, it thrills you to think that way, isn't it? So it is absolutely a blessing to be here. And me and the brothers who are going to follow me are not going to say this to you like celebrities endorse products. Right? We have better lives on it. That it is very, very special to be here. When we were in school, there used to be an advertisement in which, I'm sure all of you must be knowing, Sachin Tendulkar used to come. It's a funny motorbike advertisement for which he used to come and say, "Hey, this is the best ride, this is the best motorbike." And some of us hardcore fans know that he doesn't even know how to ride a bicycle. And here he was endorsing the bike. So we are not endorsing Parthi like that, right? We believe as much as we can that it is a very, very precious opportunity even to step into Prasanthi Nilayam. And purely Swami's grace that he's allowed us to stay a bit longer. I would like to talk to you today about what is special about going on pilgrimages. Right? You all are here as part of pilgrimage. So what is the purpose of a pilgrimage? And the idea is, if we were to understand that, we could make better use of a pilgrimage. Right? Let's start with a small, sweet story which one of my seniors in college once related to me. Just to give you a short background, in the schools in Prashanti, you either join during the first standard, that's when you start your school, or you join during the 11th standard. I don't know what's the equivalent in your schooling system. So 11th standard is a interesting time to join Swami's school, because you're already around 14, 15. It's that difficult age, to put it lightly. And then you have this discipline to keep up with, and all of these austerities, so-called, for that age. But by Swami's grace, it happens so beautifully, the transition. So this senior of mine came from the city of Mumbai. And the teachers in Swami's school their molds are made in some other universe, I guess. Very, very different. And very, very beautiful souls. The way they train the students at that age, they nurture them and lead them to Swami, it's something phenomenal. So there was this one teacher who wanted to introduce the concept of meditation to all the children. How do you teach meditation to a 13, 14, 15-year-old child who's come from the city and was so distracted? But one thing universal in the hostel was everybody had immense love for Swami. Right? Because Swami was there, and Swami was physically interacting with all of them. So they all craved to go close to Swami, and we all craved for a word from Swami. So this teacher used that to teach these children meditation. So he told them, see, meditation is very simple. You just sit down, close your eyes, and imagine that you're traveling within your own heart. Right? Just imagine as graphically as you can that you're going within your own heart, and imagine your heart to be a temple. And you're opening the doors of your temple one by one. If you've been to any of the big temples in India, you'll know that there are many doors to each temple, right? The final door is the one to the sanctum sanctorum. So this teacher told them, you close your eyes and imagine that you're going within your heart and walking through this temple, open door after door, and each door that you pass by, you're getting closer and closer to the Swami who's sitting in the altar of your heart. And then he said, you go inside and Swami will be sitting in the post that you like, Swami will be sitting on the jula, on the sofa, or whatever you like. And that Swami will talk to you. Right? This is what is the technique of meditation this teacher had taught them. And when you're at that age, you kind of believe whatever your teachers tell you. Right? So this kid had taken it so seriously. Just a story which is a little aside. It happened in Mandir again. A couple of my seniors, they were sitting in Mandir, and this time it was a student who was a part of the system. He was, a few years into the system, and then there was a new entrant. So this new entrant was sitting, and he was going on troubling this classmate of his who's been here for a few years. He brother, tell me, what should I do for Swami to come and talk to me? So this boy was getting a little irritated. So just to put him off, he said, oh, it's very simple, brother. Just close your eyes and chant Gayatri for 108 times. Swami will come and talk to you. So merely to silence him and so that he can do whatever he was doing. So this boy took it to heart and he closed his eyes and he chanted with all sincerity Gayatri mantra 108 times. He finished the 108th, the interview room door opened, Swami walked out and came straight to him and asked, where are you from? The boy who gave him the advice was shocked. See, that's the beauty of sincerity, right? So if you and I believe that Swami is not here to answer our prayers, then that's how it's going to be. But if we believe that He is there, and if we have that sincerity that goes with that belief, be sure He will come to you wherever you are. So going back to the story, so this boy, he started this meditation. So he started opening door after door, walking into the sanctum of his own heart. And he said after a certain point, he was not imagining it anymore. In the sense, he didn't know how many doors are there. Right? So every door he's opening with a trepidation that maybe this is the last door, or maybe Swami is there. So even as he's opening each one of these doors, that enthusiasm is building and that curiosity is building. And finally, as they show in the movies, each door is becoming more ornate than the previous door. So you know you're getting closer, right? So finally he comes to this beautiful, magnificent golden door and he knows that, yes, this is the final door. And he opens the door and there in that beautifully lit altar, he sees Swami sitting on a jula. With a beautiful smile, radiant face. The moment he sees that, he's like, ah. Right? If you ever see Swami when he's just coming out of his room, he's just got ready, he's combed his hair, he just had a bath, and when he steps out of the room, it's a different sight altogether. It'll be like something has lit the sky. Right? And he had the same feeling. He said, Swami is sitting there. And he's standing at the door and he's just looking at Swami, and Swami is looking so radiant. And Swami says, come. So he goes to Swami, he doesn't know, all of this is not imagination anymore, it's really happening in his heart. So he goes up to Swami, and any guesses what Swami would have told him? Swami told him, this evening, in your hostel food stall, they are going to get puffs. If you don't know what a puff is, it's something like it's something they make in the bakery. I think even now they make on Fridays or something like that. So to give you a background, it's made only in the ashram. So whenever it's made here, the boys from the hostel come here, buy it from here, and they put it in the food stall in the hostel, and whoever wants can buy that. Right? It's not part of the menu in the dining hall. So Swami is telling this boy, this evening they are going to get puffs in the food stall. It's like, what is that? And Swami says, they're going to get puffs in the food stall, you don't eat. A little bit of detail, this boy is a plump boy who's very fond of food. Okay. And then, by then the meditation session ends and he probably closes all the doors and comes out. He's trying to make sense of what Swami told him. He said, of all the things, why would Swami tell me this? That there's puff in your food stall and you don't eat it. I must have been very hungry, so my mind's playing up with me. But then the thing is, as I told you, it's only once a week that we get puff in the food stall. Right? So he thinks, okay, today's a Monday. It's not likely that they'll get food puff today. So he goes to one of his seniors and says, is it likely that they will get puff today? The senior tells him that's impossible. It's only on Fridays. So he says, okay, if the puff is there in the food stall today, which means that the conversation is real. So he runs to the food stall. Lo and behold, you wouldn't have imagined saying lo and behold before saying this, there was puff in the food stall. And this boy was like so thrilled, right? The conversation was real. Now came the next problem. Swami said, don't eat it. So he's like, oh God, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? So you won't believe it. He goes and hides himself in the bathroom to resist the temptation. Then he's not able to resist it. Finally he comes out and he comes to the food stall. The last puff is there, he buys it and he eats it all. So the next day, again the meditation. Again he has to go into the doors, go to the altar. So this time he's a bit guilty because he's not listened to Swami. And he goes, opens door after door, the final ornate door, and he opens it. The same scene, Swami sitting there in the jula, with a little cross. And Swami calls him. He said, I told you not to eat the puff. And then Swami says, today, again there's going to be puff in the food stall. You don't eat. Swami said. So then the meditation session was over, he comes out of it. And he says, this can never be possible. I mean, this is like, it never happens in the hostel. Like 2 consecutive days we have puff in the food stall. Right? So he makes all his inquiries and he's absolutely sure that it's not going to happen. And again, lo and behold, when he went to the food stall, there was puff. So this day he said, no, I'm not going to. And somehow he managed to put off that thing. I don't know after that he had this experience continuing. But when I spoke to him, of course he had graduated and he was doing his own business. And he said, can anybody take away the fact from me that my Swami is within? As a 14-year-old boy, if you have an experience like that, can anybody come and convince you that your Swami is not within you? It is a fact that the Swami is within each one of us. And when physically we used to interact with Swami, it used to be a very, the lack of words, a weird interaction. Because we know that we are talking to somebody who knows everything. The darkest of your secrets, if you could say that. But then he would ask us, what is your name? Where do you come from? What is your father doing? Right? There used to be all kinds of very interesting interactions which used to happen. But the thing is, even through this experience of Swami asking us all these questions, he would not miss a chance every now and then to reiterate that it's the same Swami who's within. There's one of my seniors who told very casual conversations, these probably will never get into a book because it's so simple and sweet. There's this student of Swami who was sitting in the mandir one day and Swami was just going around speaking to some boys. And sometimes, suddenly you will have a surge of devotion within you, right? The students will face that. It's not that we're always devoted. We used to, in the hostel jargon, we used to call it, forgive me, we used to call it AIDS. It's called acquired intense devotion suddenly. Right? One day Swami comes and speaks to you, then you become the best Sai student ever. Right? Or one fine day you'll wake up and say, oh my God, I'm not being a good student. Let me start doing something. Right? So we used to call it acquired intense devotion suddenly. So this boy was sitting in the third block and Swami was going around talking to everybody. And suddenly this boy, had this surge of emotion and connect with Swami, and he said, Swami, if you really love me the way you say you always love us, now you should talk to me. He said, right now, Swami should talk to me. And Swami's just going around like that, right? And this boy suddenly gets this thought. Swami was just walking around, suddenly turns and he said, did you say something? He said, ma? Chepnava, then Chepnava. Did you say something? Almost like somebody just spoke out. Right? Because he is there within, he is listening to each conversation which happens within us. When we were waiting, after we finish our education, we would wait for Swami to give us a job. So that's when we are not staying in the hostel. We used to stay outside in the Puttaparthi town. So one day Swami came and told some of the boys, he said, I don't want any of you to stay alone. I want you to stay in groups. He said, it's not safe that you stay alone, so I want you all to stay in groups, either as 2 people or 3 people or whatever it is. So the next day Swami again came and asked, have you all paired up, are you all staying together? So there were these 2 or 3 boys who were still staying alone, right? Because it's like you're done with your hostel life, 12 people in one room, and now you finally have a room for yourself. And now Swami is coming and saying, no, don't stay alone. And the third day Swami came and said very strictly, he said, I'll get you into trouble if I send somebody and I'll not go into those descriptions. Very graphically Swami scared these boys, and then they finally ended up staying in groups. So a couple of days later Swami comes up and Swami looks at one boy and says, so are you staying with somebody else? So he said, yes, Swami. The 2 of us are staying together. He pointed to another boy who was staying beside him. He said, Swami, we both stay together. Swami said, wrong answer. He said, no, Swami, only 2 of us. Swami said, no, 3 of you. You, the other boy, and Swami. So they were very happy that Swami was saying this. The next day Swami comes and Swami asks, so how many of you are staying together? And very jubilantly he says, Swami, 3 of us. Me, the other boy, and Swami. Swami says, wrong answer. He says, 4 of you. Said, how did it become 4 now? Swami said, no, you and Swami, you and Swami. There's one Swami for each one of you. So they were very thrilled. It didn't end there. The next day Swami again comes and how many of you are staying together? And they said, Swami, 4 of us, me and Swami and he and Swami. Swami said, no, 1, all are 1. You can never beat Swami in this game, can you? Right? So, I can, and anybody who's been with Swami for quite some time can prove that Swami is the indweller. Swami is with you. Swami is always with you. As Swami told a group of devotees in an interview, Swami asked them, where is God? So somebody said Swami inside, and somebody said Swami above. Then Swami always with me. And then Swami said, it's a very beautiful analogy that Swami gave. Swami said, God is like water and you're all like fish. Water is above the fish, below the fish, all around the fish and inside the fish. Swami said God is above you, below you, all around you and inside you. Right? So that is where God is. That is where Swami is with all of us. Then that leaves us with a paradox. To reach out to the Swami who is within me, to reach out to the Swami who is always with me, why do I have to travel thousands of miles and come to Prashanti? Right? That seems like a no-brainer. Why would I have to go all the way thousands of miles across to find somebody who is actually within me? We can tell you a lot of stories about how Swami gave us the opportunity to sit close. Swami, we held Swami's hand, we did this, we did that. But all through this, at least personally I can say or speak on my behalf, there was one experience which could never be overcome. There were times when, in the bhajan hall, when we had finished our graduation and we would be waiting for Swami to give us a job. There were about 20 of us in that bhajan hall. Swami would come very early. By 8:30 he'll come for bhajans. Even the pujari wouldn't be there. The bhajan boys wouldn't be there because most of them would be working in the institutions here. So we would be the only fellows, absolutely jobless, nothing else to do but sit and have Swami's darshan, right? So Swami would come and the entire bhajan hall would be empty. There would be 10 of us. Swami would be sitting on the throne. And all it would take is just stretch your hand, you can touch Swami's feet. And many times, while sitting like that in front of Swami, I would get these, I don't know how many of you are fond of ghazals here, any ghazal fans. There's a very beautiful Ghulam Ali ghazal. It says, "Faasile aise bhi hoge, ye kabhi socha na tha. Samne beta hai, par mera na tha." It means, I never thought that distances could be such that he was sitting right in front of me, but he was not mine. So many times this thought would come, Swami, you're just there. It just takes a stretch of a hand to grab you. But you're not mine. Or I don't have you still. There was once when Swami gave a discourse, I think in the year 2008 or 9, at the end of the discourse, all of a sudden Swami looked at the students in front of him, the third block. And Swami said, "Students, what do you want?" And in one voice, all of them said, "Swami." Right? It was a very beautiful moment when everybody in one voice, I'm sure all the devotees would have joined in too, they said, "Swami." And Swami literally threw out his arm and he said, "Come." Swami said, "I am ready." Nenu siddhangane unnanu. Swami said, "I am ready, but you are not able to take me." Right? So even if it is the Swami whom we physically were close to, had that opportunity, or that Swami who is within us, there still is a distance. And this distance can only be bridged through a process. Swami would often speak about a 4-step process, right? A 4-step journey that we all have to take towards God. He would call it Salokyam, Samipyam, Sarupyam, being in the same world with God. What does that mean, Salokyam? It actually, if you were to put it in terms which is relatable to us, it means when Swami becomes a part of our world, of my world, of your world. Millions and millions and millions of youth all around the world have no space for God in their life, have no purpose for God in their life. The very fact that you have God in your life, you have Swami in your life, is itself a blessing, isn't it? So Salokyam is the first step, but having Swami in your life is only the first step. That's the flip side. We are fortunate, that's only for beginners, that's only the starters. So the very fact that in my world, in my life, in my journey, I have Swami is Salokyam. So I have Swami in my life. I every day wake up in the morning, I say hi to him in the puja room, and then I leave him there and I go on with my work. But if I were to take Swami wherever I go, if I were to make Swami a part of every aspect of my life, that becomes Samipyam, isn't it? Samipyam means having the proximity of Swami. You're constantly having Swami with you, whatever you're doing, wherever you are, wherever you're going, right? So from just having Swami in your life as an entity, I have so many friends, Swami is also there. From there to saying that no, Swami is my companion, wherever I go, I take him. That is Samipyam. And even that Samipyam is not good enough, because when we were here, Swami was part of our schedule, right? Swami's darshan was part of our schedule, the morning and evening, and everything would revolve around it. So that Samipyam Swami gave us by default, absolutely unearned, I could say. But he gave it to us, but as I said, even that Samipyam did not guarantee the feeling that I have Swami. So Swami says, from Samipyam, you have to go to Sarupyam. Sarupyam translates to, you should have the same form as God, or you should appear like God. So this time after your trip, all of you can stitch for yourself a robe like Swami and start growing your hair like Swami. Is that what Sarupyam is? To start pretending to carry yourself like Swami, like some people have started. We will not go into that topic, but recently, I came across this post, the extent of absurdity. There's somebody else is pretending to give darshan like Swami, and somebody has posted a argument in favor of that, saying that this is what Swami wanted his students to do. He wanted everybody to become like Swami. This is Sarupyam, my God. Sarupyam is not to pretend like Swami. Sarupyam is not to wave your hand like Swami. Sarupyam is not to walk around like Swami or dress like Swami. It's a very subtle meaning for this word called Sarupyam. See, when I say I am close to Swami, this is me, that is Swami. This is my form, that is Swami's form. And I'm talking about proximity between these two forms. But in this process, which we call sadhana, which is going to take us from Salokhyam to Samipyam to Samipyam to Sarupyam, in this process of sadhana, what happens is, my idea of who I am will undergo a modification. Right now, I think I am this body. Right now, I think I'm so-and-so's son, I'm so-and-so's brother, I'm so-and-so's employee, I'm so-and-so's colleague. That definition of who I am, what my form is going to undergo a modification with sadhana. And with this change happening to my understanding of who I am, is also going to come the modification of who he is. So my understanding of my form and my understanding of his form is going to undergo a modification, and hopefully it is going to improve, not deteriorate, to a point where both of these come close to each other. And then comes a point when it's so close that seamlessly from Sarupyam will transfer to Sayujyam. What is Sayujyam? Yuj literally means to yoke. If you bring a cart, if you bring a bull, if you manage to bring them close enough, you can yoke the bull to the cart, right? Or you bring the horse close to the cart, you yoke the horse to the cart. So when my idea of who I am goes closer to my idea of who he is, there comes a point when both of these are so close that you can make a connect. And there becomes oneness. Right? And that's why one of my teachers was telling me that whenever Swami would ask, what do you want? We were well trained to say, Swami, we want only you. Right? So we would often say that. Swami would ask, what do you want? We'd say, Swami, we want you. As I said, explain that incident. But much later, this teacher once, when Swami asked him inside the interview room, what do you want? He said, Swami, I want Sayujyam. We said, good, correct answer. Right? Because if we keep saying, I want Swami, we are still in the stage by saying that this is me, that is Swami, I want Swami. But when you say Sayujyam, you're talking about one becoming one with the other, isn't it? So this journey is what is going to make us discover that Swami within. And for this, it is not simply one of my aunts, we used to call her handbag the supreme survival kit. She had this huge handbag in which everything used to be there. Everything, you can think of it. Medication for the slightest of the headaches to probably a life-saving drug. Everything. Your grooming tools, your nail cutters, your everything will be there. and ID cards, credit cards, keys to all her property. But the problem was, anytime you ask her for something, she'd like dig and dig and dig and it wouldn't come up. And she would say, no, I know it is there, but I don't know where it is. Right now we are all like that. I know Swami is within, but I don't know where. I don't know how to reach it. Right? So this aunt would invariably, when we ask her for something and she would not be able to find it, she'll say, wait. She'll go into a room where nobody else is there, and then slowly she'll pull out everything and then she'll say, I found it. So this is precisely what we're going to do with finding Swami within too. In the din of our daily life, it is very difficult to search for Swami. So every now and then, you have to go into that room and search the handbag. Right? That's precisely what we have to do. So there are two things which are going to happen. One is the process of searching for Swami. And this is not necessarily just searching within. It is also a journey, right? It's also a journey at the same time. I was reading this interesting anecdote or a news piece. In the year 1979, there was this expedition to Antarctica from New Zealand. They were supposed to take off in a flight, fly over Antarctica, fly low so that they can see the terrain, and then they would turn back. Right? No landing there. So something like a fun adventure tourist trip or something like that. So they started off on this, and before they set off on this journey, somebody had meddled with the equipment on the flight, and the direction was changed by, can you believe it, 2 degrees. 2 degrees, just 2 degrees. So they started off, they did come to Antarctica, but they went to a place about 45-50 kilometers away from where they had planned to fly low. And at that place where they had by mistake gone was a volcano which was about 12,000 feet high. So when they went down, they didn't realize, they thought that they still had ground because there was cloud cover. These pilots thought that, okay, we know that we're going to this place and this place is too low. They went there and they suddenly see this huge volcano in front of them. They tried to turn, they couldn't do that. They crashed and all the 252 people or 57 people died in that air crash. It took 2 degrees, imagine. In the beginning of the journey, 2 degrees made so much of a difference. After coming close to the crash, I'm sure he must have tried 180 degree swift. It didn't save their life. So in this journey of life, if you want to make a degrees shift, you have to do it early. If you say, after I retire, I'll do the degree shift, it's going to be too late, right? So we are all so fortunate, you are all so fortunate to have started on the journey so early, the ability to recalibrate yourself so early in life. We used to have a professor of history who came to Swami way back in the 1960s, right? And he would look at us and he would say, you're all so fortunate, you come so early to Swami. We would say, sir, we came in the 1990s, you came in the 60s, you're the one who came early to Swami. He would say, no, but I came to Swami when I was 40. You came to Swami in your teens. He said, that is more important. How many years you have with Swami is more important than how many years later, or how many years Swami was when you came to Swami, right? If I could put it that way. So we're also fortunate to have this correction in our journey so early. Because even small changes that we make in our life now make a big difference to our journey of life. That still doesn't explain why I should go on a pilgrimage, right? I might as well take a small vacation to a silent place, right? That's, if you want me to take a break from my worldly life, I can take a break and I go to Hawaii. Whatever is your favorite destination, I could be there. Why on a pilgrimage? Why to Prasanthi Nilayam? You know, in the earlier years, when they used to travel across the globe in these huge ships, you know, the early expedition of the new continents. I'm sure one of those would have discovered Australia too, right? They used to travel in these huge ships, wooden ships, for something like months on end. Because they were going across and they would never know when they would find land. They would be going for months and months. So when they would go on these ships for these huge journeys, something would happen which is called fouling. Fouling is these organisms in the ocean, your algae and planktons and all of that, they would come and attach themselves to the undersurface of the ship. Right? Because it's been traveling for months together, so they would come and slowly they would gather. You might have seen it, even now if you go to a dockyard, you will find that green undersurface. Of course, now you have many ways of removing it. In the past, there was no way. And when they do that for many, many months, what would happen is this undergrowth would become so heavy that it could even sink the ship. So you know what these people would do every now and then, after they finished their journey, they found a very simple way of getting rid of this fouling. It's a marine expedition, so they are in salt water. So all of these planktons and algae and all of that were saltwater organisms. So they would do nothing but just go and dock the ship in fresh water. They would simply dock the ship in fresh water and all of this undergrowth would follow in. Then it's ready for resuming the journey. So what were they doing? It's a very simple thing of changing the environment in which the ship was sailing. And that was good enough to remove what was dragging the ship down. So what is the problem with our daily life? The problem with our daily life is, Swami simply puts it, enormous amounts of sense indulgement, comforts, luxuries, right? So in the name of vacation, what do? We take a break from our already luxurious lives and take an even more luxurious vacation. So you're doing the right opposite of what needs to be done, isn't it? You're supposed to take a break from all of these sense draggings. And why is that? There's this very beautiful analogy. It's always good to keep it in your mind. It's from the Kathopanishad, which Swami would often quote. This is precisely how our everyday life progresses. The analogy is that your body is like a chariot. Some of you must have heard it. The body is like the chariot. The horses which are going to draw the chariot are our sense organs. The charioteer is the intellect or the buddhi. And the one who is traveling is the dehi or the indweller. Right? This is the beautiful description the Kathopanishad gives. So what they say is, this buddhi who is the charioteer is supposed to take control of the horses. Right? That's how you can go to your destination where you want. But the problem is, the horses are attracted to different things. Right? The moment the horse sees a green pasture, the horse would go towards that. Or if the horse sees other horses, it will start going towards the other horses. Right? So this person who is sitting there as a charioteer needs to take control of the horses. So in our day-to-day life, what happens is, we are constantly using our senses in the right manner too. I'm not saying that we're always misusing them. In everyday life, when we do our jobs, when we go to our school, we are using our sense organs, we are using our mind outwardly. But when we are talking about discovering Swami, we're talking about finding him inside. I was introduced as a graduate of chemistry, right? In chemistry, we have this equipment called an analytical balance. If you're studying chemistry now, you won't find it because it's old school. Even when I was studying, it was old school, but my teacher insisted that we all use that thing so that we just learn the technique. It was an atrocious equipment because it was so precise. It used to give you measurements of when you want to measure compounds. I think you could measure it to third or fourth degree past the decimal. But the problem with that is it's so precise, it would so easily go out of its precise readings. Every time you weigh something out of it, after that you can't use it again. You'll have to recalibrate it. Every time you use that equipment, you have to recalibrate it. And it's an interesting equipment. It is meant for weighing, but when you use it for weighing, it loses its precision. It's meant for doing something, but when you use it for doing that, it goes out of order. Same is the case with our mind. Same is the case with how we lead our life. Our mind is meant to be used in the way we are using it today. When I go to school, I'm supposed to read whatever is being, I'm supposed to absorb from outside. When I'm interacting with people, I'm supposed to discriminate. But even when we are doing what we are supposed to do with the mind goes conking sometimes. Right? It goes out of order. So you need to recalibrate it every now and then. And how do you recalibrate it? As Swami would often say, you recalibrate it with the voice of the conscience within. And how do you do that? You have to take a break and turn within. So you might say, all that is fine, I have a soundproof room in my house which I use as a puja room. Do I still need to come to Prasanthi Nilayam? Right? Or you might say, your problem is that too many luxuries are there. I'll go on a hike. I'll go live in a camp, right, on the hilltop. I'm sure there are much fewer luxuries there than even in the ashram, right? So if the luxuries is what is troubling us, is what is keeping us away, why don't we go on a hike and why don't we go on a camp? Swami would often use this word. In normal parlance, we use the word vibes, right? Each place has a different vibe. There's a Sanskrit phrase for that. Swami would say, sthala prabhavam. Every place has a certain vibe about it. Swami would say, sthala prabhavam. That even as you enter that place, your mind will be directed in a certain manner. Yes, you can sit in any place in the world and turn within and see God, right? That is the fact. But there are some places where this becomes very, very easy and natural and spontaneous. And that is why when we talk about pilgrimage centers, not only Prasanthi Nilayam for that matter, any temple in India is filled with such places. Swami would say that a pilgrimage is not special purely because of the deity, but it's because of the devotion which has been directed towards that deity of that place. And if I were to talk about Prasanthi, so many devotees have come here and found their God, have found devotion in their life, have found focus in their life. This place is filled with that vibe. Yes, Swami is there, Swami is the overpowering influence of this place. As I said, every tree is breathing out the breath that he breathed out. This place is pulsating with Swami, but beyond that, this idea that this place is resonating with that bhakti of thousands and thousands and thousands of devotees who have come here, who continue to come here. And being as part of Radio Sai, we get to meet a lot of people who come and tell us. And the other day, there was this elderly lady who has this, she goes on pilgrimages. She goes to different ashrams, she went to Ramana ashram, Pondicherry, and here and there. She had a huge list of complaints about our ashram. So she said, oh, these people are rude, they don't let me sit here, they don't let me do this, and there's no place to meditate, and this and that. So she was talking to one of my colleagues and she was saying all of these things, irritated. Nothing seems to be explaining the things to her. So he said, madam, why do you come here then? If you find the other ashram more interesting, why don't you go there? Why do you want to come here? Then what she said really threw this boy off his feet. She said, but what do I do? What I feel here, I don't feel anywhere else. She said, I have all of these complaints and I would really love anybody sorts all of these out. But the kind of feeling that I have here, the kind of connect that I feel here, I don't feel it elsewhere. And mind you, she's never seen Swami. She's not a devotee who's been coming for many years. Right? And similarly, I met another youngster from New York, brought up in a Jewish family. And she said, oh, what are all these rituals? I can't make anything of them. And she came with a lot of questions and we were trying to explain to her. And at the end of it, she said, yeah, I can't make sense of any of these things, but what I feel here, I've never felt in all my life. I've never seen Swami, I'm not devoted to Swami, but what I feel here, the way I can turn within here, I've never felt this way elsewhere. Sometimes we need people like that to come and tell us that you're staying in a special place. You forget otherwise. I always tell this joke as a joke, and I hope it remains as a joke. If you take a dip in the river once a day, you will remain fresh and clean. The fish that lives in the water stinks. I hope that analogy doesn't apply to us. The people come here and get sanctified and go, and we are staying here and don't seem to be getting any better. But that is why, even when you're doing this process of trying to turn within and trying to find that Swami within, yes, you need a quiet place. Yes, you need a place where the senses are not constantly drawn away. As Swami would very beautifully, in a phrase he would say, one who is a Vidyarthi cannot be a Vishayarthi. Right? Swami would say, if you want to be a Vidyarthi, you should not be a Vishayarthi. A Vishayarthi is one who runs behind materials. A Vidyarthi is one who runs behind knowledge. So at least when we are serious about gaining knowledge, Swami would say, you should embrace a simple life. And when you choose to live in a place like that, to come to a place like this where it is filled with such vibrations. Every single place in this ashram has a story behind it, and it's amazing. It's amazing. Once one of the very, very old devotees of Swami, it's actually a cousin of Swami, according to his family, who's been a companion of Swami all through from the 1940s. So he was saying this fascinating story, you might have heard it. When Swami was staying in the Patha Mandir, it was decided that Swami needs a new mandir, and they started building this mandir where the Kulwant Hall is right now. So they said, Swami, we need to build this, and this is, and Swami had given instructions, this is going to live for hundreds of years and all of that. So they said, oh, we need to build it with the right kind of material then. So then the engineer said, let's build it with granite, right? Because that's a good solid wall you will have there. The problem was, where do you get the granite from? There was no access road to Puttaparthi, and you cannot ship granite from anywhere else. So any problem, what would they do? They would rush to Swami. They went to Swami and they said, Swami, we want to build the thing with granite, but we don't have any way to bring the granite here. And Swami looked up for some time, and Swami said, okay, go to Chitravati, go down this road. And Swami gave you direction. And Swami said, you just go and see there. So they went to this particular place, and they were shocked to see that there was an entire small hillock, which was actually a granite, one solid granite, one full rock. They thought it was a hillock, but it was one full rock. So they were so surprised and they were so happy, but they came back with another problem. They said, Swami, how do we break it up? What do we do now? How do we break it up? Because those days you had to get permissions to use dynamites and all of that. And again, Swami looked up. Swami said, okay, you go tomorrow, we'll see. On a summer day, when everything was clear, and you know how summers are in Bharti, suddenly that night it becomes cloudy, and one lightning strikes that one rock and shatters it into pieces. The next morning, the engineers and the workers go there and they find all of these pieces of granite. They just have to lift it and shape it and use it. And that was the rock with which your mandir is built. And when some devotees who've been fortunate to be with Swami in the Chitravati days, they came back and they said, oh, very nice. And when they heard the story, they said, which is that rock? And they said, this particular place. And they had their version to add to it. It was one particular rock which had this very flat surface. So many hours when Swami had gone for Chitravati sessions, sometimes Swami would sit on that rock and do bhajans with the devotees. And that very rock has become the mandir today. And that is the mandir we sit in front of. Right? So every single place is filled with not only Swami's miracles, but such devotion. One of my lecturers, the former director of Radio Sai, he used to walk behind Swami in the 90s. So one particular day when Swami was going around in darshan, there was this one particular devotee who was very well dressed, and he was jumping and trying to catch Swami's attention with his letter. So being this person who was walking behind Swami, he was trying to ensure that that person doesn't pounce on Swami. So then he was like literally reading this letter in front of Swami. So finally Swami picked it up very casually and just gave it back to this person, to the person who was walking behind Swami, to keep it with the other letters. So he also put it in the bunch. And even as Swami passed that person, this person got up and caught this man's hand. Right? It's a very odd thing to do in darshan. He pulled his wrist and pulled him and he said, "What happened?" He said, "Sir, please be careful with that envelope. It's got a draft for 20 lakhs. Right? And he literally whispered this to this person, and the moment he said that, Swami turned back and Swami asked for that envelope. So this man thought, okay, maybe Swami wants to keep it safely. Right? After all, so much money. Swami took that envelope and threw it back at that person and walked away. So this teacher of ours was seeing this sight. He said, yeah, it's understandable, because anybody who knows Swami good enough will know that Swami has nothing to do with money. Really. So much later, the same day, this person was in the interview room with Swami, and another incident happened. Sorry, I forgot that. So even during that darshan, Swami picked up one letter from another devotee in the crowd, and Swami turned back to this man and gave it to him and said, "Keep this letter safely." Right? The 20 lakh was thrown, this particular letter was given, this envelope was given, and Swami said, "Keep this safely." So if you go back and see these old videos, people who used to walk behind Swami would have 4 pockets. Maybe priority, very important, okay, not so important. Swami's handkerchief, my handkerchief. Right? So he put it in that pocket of priority because Swami would ask for it later. So later in the interview room, Swami called him and Swami said, "Hey, where's that letter I gave you?" So this lecturer pulled out this letter and Swami said, "Open it, open it." So he opened it and he found in it a counterfoil. I mean, if you go and make a deposit or a donation in the Central Trust office, they'll give you a counterfoil of that draft. So it was that. So he just looked at that, he said, "Swami, somebody's made a donation and he's given the draft." Swami said, "How much is it?" So he looked at it, he said, "Swami, 10 rupees. 10 rupees. Okay? And then Swami said, "Read that letter." This person opened that letter and he read it. It's a very, very simple man, probably some villager who maybe is very happy that his son got married, or his education of his son was done, or he had good rains, or whatever was the reason. He said, "Swami, I just wanted to contribute something to Swami's trust. So I don't have any money to give." So he had written that, "Swami, I skipped 2 meals so that I can save this 10 rupees and make this donation." Right? And Swami preserved that draft. And then Swami looked at this lecturer who was teaching in Swami's institute, and Swami said, "This is the money I use. Such is the money with which I build my institutions, such is the money with which I pay salaries. It is through such love, devotion and sacrifice this entire place was built." Right? It's no wonder that when you walk in here, something happens. Something you feel that it's so easy to connect with Swami. Right? But if any of you are having a different kind of an experience, don't be surprised too. Because I would often say this. Generally people say that when you're in Swami's presence, your mind becomes calm and still, and you can hear bells ringing. You know? My experience was completely opposite. Because when you're in front of Swami, all the demons from inside will pop out. The mind will become so restless and noisy and all of that. I used to wonder, oh my God, is it that I'm a freak? Everybody else is feeling so peaceful and this is Prashanti and I'm feeling like this. till much later Swami had explained this in the discourse, that sometimes Swami makes that happen so that we can deal with all this garbage which is there inside. Otherwise, we are so busy with our lives, we don't have time to even recognize them and deal with them. So sometimes when you're in a place like this, when you're in Swami's presence, when you're in such an ambience, that comes out so that you can recognize it and you can deal with it. And there's one last point. How much more time I can inflict myself upon you? 10 minutes more? One last point I would like to make about pilgrimages. I think this is something which you can apply to other aspects of your life too. I'm sure most of you, if not you, your parents, who have spent enormous amounts of money on sending you here, right? At the end of the day, it costs a lot to go on pilgrimages. When we do such a thing, see, what is money at the end of the day? Money is the time that we convert into monetary things, isn't it? I have my life, I work in an office. The number of hours I put in, they pay me back. It's a means by which I convert my lifetime into something that I can use later or I can transfer it to my children. So when we spend that money on something like this, right, when you remember that a pilgrimage is supposed to do all of these things to you, and you say that, all right, I will save for this, I will put aside money for this, and I will use it for this trip. It is a message that you're sending to your mind that this journey is important for me. That this journey within is important to me. Right? There was this devotee who came to Swami and he said, he was a businessman. Swami asked him, how are you? As usually we ask. Generally we'll say, yes Swami, I'm fine. But this man poured out, no Swami, I'm not at all fine, I have all of these problems. And he started listing out all his problems in life. So Swami gave him a patient hearing, and then at the end of it, Swami said, okay, I'll give you a few techniques. You just go and follow these when you go back home. I'm sure Swami must have told him, do meditation early in the morning, and a few things like that Swami told him. So this man goes back happy, comes back after 3 or 4 months, and then Swami asks him, so all your problems are settled now? So he says, no Swami, they're all there, I'm still having the same problems. And Swami says, that's impossible. Then Swami says, did you do what I asked you to do? He said, no Swami, I have no time. I didn't find the time, I'm a businessman, I'm so busy, I keep traveling all around the place. And Swami asked a simple question. All this while when you were busy, did you anytime miss your morning coffee? He said, no. Did you miss your breakfast? He said, no. Forget the main meals, did you ever miss those knickknacks in between? He said, no. So this journey, which is spiritual, Swami said, is not important to you. Right? Swami said, 6 times, 4 times, 5 times you're ready to feed this body. Can't you put aside a little to feed the soul? Right? So if you feel that this journey is important to you, if you feel that course correction in this journey of life is important to you, and when you put aside hard-earned money, it is you putting aside your time for this. You're saying, this is important to me, and this, you're not telling anybody else. You're not telling your friends. You're telling your own mind. You are not your mind. You are telling your mind, look, this is important to me. And when you do that, this is an opportunity for you to step back every now and then and recalibrate. So when you're caught up in our life every day, it's quite natural, right? I go to my office, my colleagues got a new car. I'm already thinking, oh my God, my car is becoming old, right? Or my colleagues come back and they say, hey, I bought this new house. Or you're driving on the road and you have these huge billboards which are constantly telling that your life is inadequate if you don't have all these things. that lie is hitting us on our face every day. So just like that analytical balance, it goes out of order. So every now and then you need to recalibrate, and this kind of a place, this kind of a trip helps you in doing that. So having said so much, probably I'll leave you with a few final thoughts. How do you make best use of this time that you are here? And how do you make best use of your trip after you've gone back home? Given that the whole idea is to turn within, there is no better tool than silence. Right? As much as possible, how many ever minutes, hours you can take away for your own silence, do that. Spend time with yourself. It sounds a wrong thing to say, because in the modern world, that's what they say, you're not spending enough on yourself. You're not pampering yourself enough. I'm not saying that. Spend time with yourself. Ask questions to yourself. Am I doing the right thing? Do I really want this? Am I pursuing the right goals? Speak with yourself. Take time out and do that. The other thing which Swami would often tell us as students is, so you've come all the way, recognizing that Swami is important to me, and this contact that I make with Swami is important to me. But you come here and you make your own friends. Right? You start making contacts within yourself, and you start making, we'll catch up when we come, we'll meet up next. Nothing wrong. I'm not saying that it's a huge sin and all that. But it's just that a little more. Right? We are like people who are trying to carry water in a basket from one end to the other. So as many holes as you can fill, it's worth it. So Swami would often say this, and the extent to which we would end up following this, we didn't do it very consciously. Sometimes I wouldn't know where my neighbor is. In the hostel, we would be about 12 of us staying in a room. So many times I wouldn't know my cupboard mate, which city he is from. We would live like brothers and we would share everything, but I wouldn't even know what is his native language. Because the focus was so much on Swami. And Swami would keep us so busy, right? So keep to yourself as much as you can, keep yourself busy as much as you can, and keep talking to yourself, right? Keep asking these questions, keep searching within, because you've come here to search. The purpose of the pilgrimage is to search within, and if we're not doing that, then we might have been holidaying elsewhere, right? So do that as much as you can. And the other thing which it offers is, every opportunity for simplicity, embrace it, if I could put it that way. One of my classmates who lived here for 5 years and studied with us, now he's a very, very successful banker in London. He came back here, he stayed here for a week, and at the end of it I asked him, how's your stay this time? He said, my God, I realized that I could live without so many things in my life. Living in the ashram was a reminder to me that I could live life without so many things. I don't need an air conditioner, I don't need a mattress, I don't need this, I don't need that. Because as Swami would say, true happiness actually comes from within. And in life, we are always searching for it without, right? Yes, we are chasing it outside. So when we have an opportunity like this, you will find that the happiness comes from within without having any of these luxuries. So whenever, I would say this to everybody who comes, you see a long line in the coffee shop, happily go and stand there. Because it's an opportunity for silence, it's an opportunity for namasmarana. Oh, Swami, there are 5 people instead of 1 people. I get more time to do namasmarana now. Go and stand there, that enthusiasm, right? Swami would say, the first step in the spiritual journey is utsaha, enthusiasm. When you see an opportunity, your eyes sparkle like that. Swami, that's an opportunity for silence, that's an opportunity for simplicity, that's an opportunity for namasmarana. Right? Choose the opportunity out of this pilgrimage. And finally, after you're done with the pilgrimage, when you go back, there's a very silly story which I always like to say. Interestingly, always nice to speak to the Australian devotees because I started my speaking career by speaking to the Australian youth. It's a repetition for you. There was this man who is very, very poor. So he was walking around the market in ragged clothes and his hair was all unkempt. He had this very bad beard. Anybody who looks at him will know that he's a very poor man. So a good friend of his comes by and he says, "Hey, why are you looking like this? How's your life going?" He says, "It's miserable. I'm in poverty. I don't have any money to feed my children." And he says all of these things. So the friend is very sad to hear the story, and he says, "See, if I had enough money, I would have helped you. Probably I'll help you with a small tip." And he says, "You know what? I heard this rumor. I heard this coming from somewhere, from one of the travelers, that beyond the river there is that hill, and behind that hill I hear that there is a cave. And apparently there is some king who has hid all his wealth in that cave." He says, you're anyway a poor man, you don't have a job. Why don't you go and search for that? And if you find it, you're going to be really lucky." So this poor man says, "Oh, really, thank you so much for this piece of information. I'm going to really go and search for that right away." So the poor man goes away, the friend goes away on his own. So a few months later, they meet in the same place, in the market. The man is still wearing ragged clothes and his hair is unkempt. He's looking the same poor man. And one look at him, the friend knows that he's probably not found the treasure. So he goes up to him and he says, "I'm really sorry, you must have searched for the treasure and didn't find it." And the moment he says treasure, this poor man's eyes lit up and he says, "Oh, treasure, I really found it." He says, "I found the treasure." The friend looks at him and says, "You found the treasure? Then why are you dressed like this still? Are you living in the same house? Are your children well fed now?" He said, "No, I'm still living in the same poor house and my children are still starving." "And you found the treasure?" He says, "Yeah, I found the treasure." "Then what did you do?" He says, "No, whenever I feel very poor, I go to the cave, look at all the wealth, feel rich and I come back." The friend says, "You fool. Every time you went to the cave, you could have at least filled your pockets and come back. Your life would have been better." So if we come to Prashanti and we say, "Oh, Prashanti is so peaceful. I'm feeling so peaceful. I'm feeling so close to Swami." And if we go back empty-handed or empty-pocketed, that would be as absurd as this man did. And that's why Swami would say, never return from a pilgrimage untouched, untransformed. Life is a long journey. It's not that one pilgrimage should turn you away, set your life. But even small changes, every small change, that's why even pocketfuls are enough. So when you go back, you have to take a little bit of Prashanti with you wherever you go. And Swami would say this when we were students. Swami had given this very beautiful analogy to us. Swami said, "See, you're all like pots. You came to me like empty pots. And I've filled you till the brim with water. So if you take this pot and keep it in the open, under the sun, over a period of time, the water is going to evaporate, right? And Swami said, that's what's going to happen to you when you move away from Swami's presence. Slowly you're going to forget Swami, slowly you're going to forget all the sadhana and all of that is going to happen. So Swami said, so what you have to do is, take this pot filled with water and keep it in a trough of water. You take a bigger trough and keep this pot of water, what a beautiful analogy, put a pot of water on that. Swami said the evaporation of the water inside the pot will be lesser. And every now and then you can come back and refill. So Swami said this trough of water in which you have to place this pot of water is the satsangam that you keep, is the sadhana that you do. Right? So if you were to ask, I have a puja room in my house, Sai Center is just a little distance from my house, I don't need to come to Prashanti. Coming on a pilgrimage has a purpose. The puja room, your morning sadhana, your Sai Center has its purpose. You come here and what you gain from here, you sustain through all of these apparatus when you go back. You have to sustain this energy which you've got till the next trip when you come and Swami says, I'll recharge you. Right? So this is the tip which Swami has given. When you go back, don't say that, okay, one Prashanti trip for 5 years, I can go back to my party. Right? It's not wrong, I'm not saying that, don't do that. But you should want to hold this together. So when you go back, a little bit of satsang around you, the like-minded people, when you go out and if somebody says, where have you been? And you tell them, oh, I went to my God's place, they'll probably laugh at you, right? There's this beautiful incident in the interview room which Mrs. Geeta Mohan Ram narrates. She was in this interview with another family which is from America. So there was this boy who was very shy, 14-year-old boy who was not looking at Swami, who was not talking. And this mother of that boy was, she was having AIDS. So she was crying and she was saying, Swami, I'm so glad that you called us and all of that. And then she was telling Swami how important Swami is to her. So she told Swami, I really love your form, I really love seeing your videos and seeing your photos. And Swami said, yeah, I know, your house is filled with Swami's pictures. And Swami looks at this boy and says, isn't it? And this boy's eyes lights up. He said, yes, Swami, everywhere, in every room. Huge picture, life-size pictures of Swami. Apparently that was the most difficult thing for this boy because he couldn't get any friends home. And then Swami said, I know, you're not able to get friends home because of all these pictures, right? He said, yes, Swami, they'll ask me questions. Swami said, no problem. If they ask you who this is, Swami said, you tell them this is my geography teacher. It could be made even weirder than that. Right? So we all are going to go back to our friends and colleagues and classmates who will not be able to relate to the relationship we are trying to build with Swami. Will not be able to relate to what we are trying to achieve in life, or maybe at least not right now. It's not wrong, they have their own ways. But sometime we'll have to find a company that resonates with what we have chosen to do in life. Once a week, twice a week. I'm not saying throughout. I'm not saying go and lock yourself in the Sai Center. But at least, right? This is the recalibration in the short term that you often do. Go back and you kind of refresh yourself. Because this is a long journey. The advantage of starting early is even 2 degrees matter. The disadvantage is we have a long journey, right? And there are many steps. Every step could be a slip. Don't worry about that. So it's a long journey, so we need to sustain what we have gathered for a longer time. Right? So that's what I wanted to share with all of you. Thank you very much for your very, very patient listening. I'm sure that the speakers are going to get better and better after this, so you can keep awake all through. Have a wonderful time. This is really a blessing. I can't emphasize this more. I really can't emphasize this more. I'm telling this from the bottom of my heart. Every moment spent in this place is precious. You have no idea how many births you've yearned for this chance, right? So hold it together and just save that, right? Thank you.